Well, hello everybody. I'm just going to do a real quick one, hopefully, because this morning when I got up, I went through some articles and so on, and there was some interesting things going on that I just wanted to make a diary of on the radar here. So I got a response from Eric Lee on Medium to something. I asked him what he thought about Clive Spash, who's somebody I'm looking into, whose work I'm looking into. A couple of things I want to share with you later of his work. And he said, my domain of discourse is biophysical economics, natural science based, and Clive is a social ecological economist guy, i.e. human centric versus nature centric. He has a solid foundation in conventional economics, which from the biophysical economics point of view is a pretend science, i.e. not based on natural science. So he's in the natural sciences and Clive's in the social sciences. So he goes on to say, like most ecological economists and all conventional economists, he seems to want to make modern techno-industrial society work, i.e. does not view it as functionally non-viable. So a bit of tweaking around the margins is what is needed, and good luck with that. I get that perspective. I understand the difference between the natural sciences and the social science view, and I have a similar perspective on economics. As you know, I'm not an expert, but anyway, economics, religion is way out of whack and doesn't take into account important things like nature, physics, and so on. So I get that. He says it's a human-centric thing and modern techno. Now, if you understand the usage of the words modern, technological, and industrial, and also fossil fuel and fossil capital and all those kinds of things, I get that. But we are human beings, so whatever solutions we try to arrive at or come up with now, obviously they're going to be human-centric because we're people. When we're extinct, the biophysical economics will go back to doing what it naturally does, and there won't be anybody here to talk about it. In the meantime, I really doubt that anytime soon we're going to go back to Paleolithic lifestyles or, pre-civilization hunter-gatherer lifestyles or pastoralists or whatever. We're gonna probably not want to throw away all of our scientific knowledge and technologies and so on. People like Clive do good work because they're trying to figure out if there's anything we can do to change things and what impact that might have on the way we live and our future. So I don't know. I look into that stuff because I'm curious. I'm not an expert, so I have to go in and read and study and see if I can make heads or tails out of it and then share it with you, see maybe if people want to try to do different things. And then from that, we go back to the status quo, which is business as usual. I saw Stephen Colbert had Bill Clinton on. You know, all these presidents, a lot of them anyway, most of them I would say, were criminals in one way or another. They all get exonerated, they all skate, they all get rehabilitated, and that's just the way business is done in the great game. They serve capital, they serve power, they serve the great game, control over the resources, over the energy, over wealth, over people. And so it's that conquering nature and exercising control over everything that people in power want. What do you give a man who has everything? More control over something. Same with women who want to play this game. But sometimes Caitlin Johnstone says things that resonate with me, and she wrote a piece 6 days ago called When the Show is Over, the Actors Hold Hands and Take a Bow, which is true. I mean, whatever you think about who won the election or the last election or the next election, they're going to shake hands and they're going to have their presidential library, and life is going to go on pretty much the way it always has. People somehow believe that things are going to change. And that's another thing. I saw a video, Jeffrey Sachs on the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. It's a global initiative for the United Nations. Again, Eric wouldn't like this much because, and a lot of people I know who are more degrowth and anti-tech and so on. They don't believe in sustainable development. It's like development's a dirty word. What do you mean by development? Solutions, right? And so, that smacks of greenwashing, whatever. But again, it's rehabilitating business as usual, saying that there's going to be growth and all that. We just need better technology and ephemeralization and better governance and so on and so forth, and we're going to be fine. And some people believe strongly in overshoot, and to what degree is overshoot kicking in, and when is it going to really impact the way we do things? Is it going to be this decade or 100 years from now? Nobody knows. So it may or may not be salient to you, or you may or may not think it's an emergency. But I think most people who look at things from science domains and reality-based, data-based, and so on, understand that overshoot's a thing and that we've hit it. Peak oil's a thing and we've hit it. Climate change is a thing. It's happening, global heating and so on, the sixth extinction. I keep mentioning these things because they're real. We don't want to believe that. So obviously, development in what sense? Spiritual development? Or, bringing Africa up to U.S. standards of consumerism, that kind of thing. So anyway, he interviewed Aaron Good, and I've talked about his book that I read that I love, American Exception, Empire, and the Deep State. You don't think the deep state exists. Well, there's so many different ideas about what the deep state is, and some of it is conspiracy stories. Some of it is conspiracy theory. Some of it's not really conspiracy. It's just about the structure of how power is structured these days. But that was a good discussion. I really wish people would listen to that. I like Jeffrey Sachs. I think he's an honest actor, sincere person. And so I think Aaron's sincere too. He has some ideas about Kennedy assassination, whatnot. You may or may not be interested in that kind of thing, which is fine. I don't have to agree with everything someone thinks to find a lot of their work compelling and interesting and helpful for me. So I don't mind if some of the things seem a little off. But he spent a lot of time looking into things like this, the deep state type thing, and crimes against democracy and whatnot. He's really a good guy, so I wish people would look at that. Jared Brock put up a piece about he predicts things. He does predictions like people do. And he put up 10 predictions about Trump's next 4 years. And I agree with almost all of them except number 8. So Trump will not turn America into a fascist dictatorship. I agree with that. I don't think that's going to happen because there are lots of forces that will push back against that, and he lists some of them in his piece. Trump will not turn America into a Nazi totalitarian state, and I agree with him. You have to understand what Nazi is, what fascism is. You have to put it in a historical context, and then you have to say, what do we mean by that here and now today, And it's not going to be Nazi. The same way that when Putin says denazification of Ukraine, well, you could say denazification of a certain element of the Ukrainian military or something like that, but I don't think Ukraine needs to be denazified. So that's, people use these terms loosely for effect because they resonate with people emotionally and get them wound up. Trump will not escalate, and the trans culture war, I don't think he will either, because I don't think he cares. But that doesn't mean that the people around him won't, because they're, certain types of Republicans are always going to be shouting, fire in a crowded movie theater in terms of the culture wars and whatnot. You could look at the numbers and say, really, there aren't that many people who are post-op transsexuals or people who have gender dysphoria or whatever. It's such a small percentage of the population. It really doesn't have that much of a cultural impact if you would just shut up about it. I mean, who cares? It's really, they're not coming for your kids. You can still homeschool your kids and take them to, a Pentecostal meeting, 5 times a week if you want. And condition your people the way you want them to be conditioned, and massage your beliefs any way you see fit. They're not coming for you, so chill out. I don't understand why people get so uptight. Okay, yeah, it's true, it's hip now to have homosexual love scenes in every TV show episode. It seems like that anyway, a lot more obviously than 10 years ago or whatever. But so what? Some people are gay and some gay people do have sex. So big deal. I don't see what the problem is. But, they're going to be screaming about culture war stuff because it's exciting and it gets people wound up. But it really has nothing to do with your paycheck or the price of groceries or whether or not you can insure your house in Florida because there's hurricanes every 5 minutes now and tornadoes in Oklahoma every 10 seconds or whatever because the world's heating up, but that's just a hoax. Anyway, I think you see what I mean. Just chill out. Trump will not fix the immigration system. Obviously not. I mean, we don't fix things. We fight about them so that both parties can stay in power, so that they can continue to exist. They just want to perpetuate themselves, the parties, right? So yeah, the immigration thing's going to stay pretty much the same. You can build more wall or whatever. They're going to do nasty things and ugly things, but Biden did, Obama did. Maybe, obviously, Trump's going to be, and his people are going to be much, much more grotesquely ugly about the whole immigration thing. And they're going to screw things up. But they won't fix anything. That's the point he's making, and I agree with him. Trump will not let Elon slash public services. Elon's going to wreck things, but he's going to loot the place as much as he can. But there are checks and balances still in the American system, and people just won't stand for it, right? Elon just can't shut down everything. People won't stand for it. The states won't stand for it. Trump will increase the national debt for sure. Everybody does that. So it's who knows when that thing's going to blow up. But as long as they can, the central bank can pump liquidity into the markets. $1 trillion in interest from U.S. taxpayers this year. Well, Trump will not fulfill his major promises. You can count on that. I'm sorry, MAGA Nation. You're not going to be happy at the end of 4 years. I'm not saying you would have been if Harris was elected either. The world will be temporarily safer. That's the one where I disagree. He seems to think that Trump's going to be wind down the Russia-Ukraine thing, and he's going to be a little less belligerent in the Middle East. I don't think so. He wasn't in Syria. He wasn't when he killed Iranians in Iraq and so on. I don't think he cares. He's going to let the military-industrial complex and the Defense Department, the State Department, and the Pentagon and the military-industrial complex do what it's got to do. And he'll be crowing if the stock market goes up. He'll be excited, regardless of what happens with any of the wars. And who knows about China? I mean, there's so many neocon hawks in his clique, in that whole MAGA clique and the 2025 plan thing. I don't think there's going to be peace anytime soon. That we don't have peacemakers as leaders anymore. Trump will not stay in office for a third term. I agree with that. J.D. Vance will be president within the next 4 years. He said within the next 4 years. So he's assuming that Trump might pass away because he's old and he might have a heart attack or something. And other people say that they're surprised that he hasn't been, you know what, Kennedy'd yet. I hate to think like that, but there's a lot of weirdos in the States and a lot of crazy things and deep state stuff. You never know. But even if J.D. Vance doesn't become president because Trump passes away, he very well might win the election next time. You don't know, and it wouldn't make much of a difference anyway, because the United States really isn't going to radically change what it does. It's an empire, and it's going to work like hell to maintain its global hegemony, and it's going to try to make all the nations on earth conform to the rules-based order. And you know what happens since the dawn of the Republic to countries that don't go along with the United States. They get in trouble. I wonder if this, that's another one. So that's his thing. That's why I was thinking about that. Owen Jones, about Israel allying with ISIS in Gaza. Now, where have we heard that before? I mean, that's just nothing new. I know Owen has to do his job. He's a decent guy, but okay. So I wrote this on Owen's YouTube. Working with brutal regimes is nothing new. The Racket, Smedley D. Butler, his book, War is a Racket. You should all read that. That was parenthetical. Has always allied with terrorists, murderous gangs, and merciless militias when it suits its purpose. The great game is like a political party, a machine whose purpose is only to perpetuate itself. There have been tens of thousands of reports like this for the past 200 years, and they will continue as long as our enterprise, modern techno-industrial civilization, continues. The players don't care that the great game is an omnicidal, creative destruction heat engine. Folks are okay with it because where we live, the bread and circuses are fantastic. Oh, and we love fanship and gambling posterity on winners. It feels better to believe that the players have our best interests at heart than to learn what's needed to imagine and create a way of managing our socioeconomic and cultural affairs in a peaceful, sustainable way that supports posterity or future generations or life on Earth. So yeah, I'm a bit cynical about it all now, and I can't help it because everything I learn just reinforces that with the technology we have today and the inequality and so on, it's just going to accelerate and get more and more dangerous. So you have your doomsday clock thing, a nanosecond to midnight type thing. Of course, we're not going to notice it because, I'm going to see if John Bones Jones defeats, what's his name? The Polish-American heavyweight GOAT. And I'm going to have a nice day. So we won't notice it until we can't ignore it, basically. So that's Owen. And then Rachel Donald of Planet Critical, a podcast I follow. She's nice. I like her. She posted a piece about an open letter that some computer scientists and hacking experts put out, that there's this hack that happened in the election, and basically it's about these bullet ballots when people just vote for the president and that's it. So usually it's between 0.5% and 1% of voters in a state are bullet ballot voters, which means they only vote for the president. They don't vote for anything else on the ballot. So in all the swing states, it was much higher than that, anywhere from 5.5% to over 10% bullet ballots. And then they talk about why that is, because there were reports that operatives and lawyers from the Trump clique after the last election got a hold of the software and so on and so forth. Anyway, you have to read it. It's very interesting. So the election software was compromised, and then talks about the hack a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm smiling because, you just saw this coming. There was going to be a conspiracy like this, and it was bound to happen. And let me see what I posted about it, because it was bound to happen. So I said on my social media concerning this article and on Substack, do you remember when Trump said, "Can't you just find 10,000 votes? I need 10,000 votes." Remember that? He was on the phone talking to somebody in Georgia, I think it was. So only 400,000 of them were necessary to tip this election, 400,000 votes. So people talk about a landslide and a mandate, and also fewer people voted this time than last time. So come on, the people haven't spoken. It's not like that. At one point, Musk tweeted that millions had signed up on his pledge. So he was offering $1 million, remember, for people to sign up. So this is one of the ways they get to know who voted and who didn't in real time, and then cast a bullet ballot on behalf of these people to bring Trump to power. Oh my God. So anyway, I say this could be a whale of a conspiracy story or make Watergate look like a petty crime.
Finally, I feel that Richard Nixon and his loved ones have suffered enough and will continue to suffer no matter what I do, no matter what we, as a great and good nation, can do together to make his goal of peace come true.
So what? Nobody's going to get punished. Elon Musk will skate. Donald J. Trump will skate. These guys never get busted. So I said, you knew this was coming. I was talking about this 4 years ago. Would you like to know what to believe? Don't make me laugh. Oh boy, good gosh. I never thought I'd be reading something like this. Cheaters lead the world. Criminals wear white shirts and nice suits. And individuals worship fame, nerds, and technology. Brinksmanship? Hacking? Of course. If it's true, the irony will be spectacular. Regardless, the shite show will continue until the last person turns to dust. So yeah, This it'll be weird if it comes to a point where they're actually talking about having recounts, right? They only have a few days to file those requests if they're going to do it in some states. I think Arizona is like Friday, before Friday. And then it'll go into the courts. You remember what happened with Al Gore and George W. Bush. So yeah, there you go. It'll be interesting if something happens. But anyway, it's going to be one of these things where if there's a lot of evidence for this, regardless of whether they recount or not, the Democrats, operatives, lawyers, they're going to be going after Trump and going after Musk for 4 years. So we're going to be following that. Nothing will happen, obviously. And the MAGA nation will be saying, see, they're trying to persecute our guy again. He can't get anything done because they're always, on his tail trying to put him in jail, and so on and so forth. So they'll have an excuse, There we go again. So this article is really interesting. So she says, is this just BlueAnon? So, oh my God. And then the other guy, a little bit of Cassandra thing, one of the leaders of this, the hackers that brought this to light, his name is Spoonamore. For 20 years, I've been saying the same thing. The elections are being hacked. Here's how they're being hacked. And every time people take a few recommendations after each hacked election, implement some of it, but then you sit there going, it's still not secure. So nobody's going to allow that narrative to pop its ugly head up, because if it's not gerrymandering or some other thing, there's going to be some manipulation. All the sides are going to compete like that. So that's an interesting article. I recommend you read that. And then another guy follows Simplicious on Substack. He talks about the Ukraine war. And, he's got a point of view. All of them have their biases and political slants and so on. But he puts up a lot of reference material and links and so on. So it's easier to cross-reference and fact-check his stuff. And generally, it checks out pretty good. So I follow him. And we're talking about these ATACMS missiles, right? And why are they going to escalate everything before, the last couple of months of lame duck power for Biden? And I think, they just got to ramp up this war as much as possible to get it as hot as possible before unpredictable Trump comes in and does something that the hawks don't like. But anyway, Putin's onto that, I guess. He's just going to do the minimal pushback on every red line that's crossed and see what happens when Trump comes in. So I don't think we're going to be nuked anytime soon. But and also it's funny because he mentions in here, and I checked it out, Russia's fired about 5,000 missiles during this war. And the West has about 50. So there's a huge difference in terms of the supply of various missiles in France, UK, and the United States, and what Russia's producing. There's just no comparison. So it's like, if they really wanted to win, wouldn't the West be producing tens of thousands of missiles to fire at Russian positions in this war? And meanwhile, Russia just keeps taking territory, all the fronts. And that's the truth. And you won't hear that on mainstream media because, they're just cheerleading the status quo, whatever's being done. So these are my recommendations. Definitely listen to the Aaron Good thing. It's with Jeffrey Sachs. It's really, really good. I'll put the links in the show notes. And that's all I want to say today. So take good care. Have a good rest of the week. It's hump day here, Wednesday, hump day, November 20th. Take good care. Talk to you soon. Bully MT, out.